Everybody, welcome to our buying and selling of solar homes class with the McNamara Group. I'm Blake Gwynn, and I just want to thank everybody for showing up today. Let's start off with what really are solar panels. So really when we're talking about a solar home, we're talking about the solar electric panels, the big glass panels on roofs that produce electricity. Now, why is solar so important for realtors? Well, right now there's over 20,000 Southern Nevada homes that currently have solar. Now, again, these are the electric ones. And right now, I was part of the group that helped pass a bill called AB 405, which helped reinstate the solar industry here in Nevada. And so with that new legislation, we're actually probably going to be looking at next 3 to 5 years, anywhere from 40 to 50,000 people going solar within Nevada. And so right now it's really important for realtors and homeowners to really understand the different types of programs, especially when you're buying or selling a solar home. Now, let's just talk real quickly. So in 2016, MV Energy and the Public Utility Commission actually ended the solar industry overnight here in Nevada. And so what we were able to pass, again, was AB 405. That was signed and passed by the governor, became law, and really what it did, it stated that anybody who had solar prior to December 31st of 2015 were grandfathered into the original rates that they had signed up for. And it reestablished the solar industry, allowing anybody to go solar moving forward, which is great. So let's talk about where we are right now. So thanks to AB 405, right now we have a solar bill of rights that, again, grandfathers solar homeowners into the original rates that they signed up for. And the language in the law now guarantees that solar rates will never be retroactively switched again, which was our big issue. So let's really kind of dive into what is solar and why do people do it. Really, it's all about the green. People go solar to, one, help out the environment. They want to pollute less. They want to go green. But then they also want to go green in their wallet. And so really you've got people who are doing it for environmental reasons as well as for financial reasons. In my personal experience, what I've seen is no one really goes solar unless they're really truly saving money. And so that's what a lot of your clients and or just homeowners are going to be looking to do, is really save the green. The other reason that they can go solar is that they get a federal tax credit. Now, federal tax credit is 30% of the total cost of the system. Prime example would be if the cost of the system was $20,000. Their federal tax credit would be $6,000. Now, you're going to start seeing a lot of people go solar before the end of 2020 because that tax credit actually is going to start reducing. The other benefit of going solar is it could add value to your home. You could add instant equity into your home if you own the system outright. So let's talk about how really solar works. Now, solar works from a program called net metering, or NEM, M-N-E-M. Net metering is a credit on the customer's bill or a buyback for energy production. Extra production during the day that's stored in a virtual battery on the grid. The best way to think about net metering is like back in the old days when we had the old Nokias and flip phones and you had rollover minutes. If you had an extra 100 rollover, you had an extra 100 minutes this month, you could roll those over into the next month. It's the same exact principle with net metering. If you produce an extra 100 kilowatt hours this month, you could roll those 100 extra into next month and use those. And so really, net metering doesn't cost you anything. Almost every utility company in the country has some form of net metering. And so really it's important to reach out to the solar company and see what type of program that your utility company is doing here. All right, so let's really get into the meat of the situation. I call it the flavors of solar. There's really three different types of programs. The first is really covered under third-party ownership, and that, of course, is a solar lease or power purchase agreement. If you've ever seen online, you can go solar for no money down or heard radio commercials, that's what it is. It's a third-party owned system. For no money out of your pocket as the homeowner, you can go solar. The solar company will install the panels at no cost to you and charge you, theoretically, a lower rate of electricity than what the utility company does. So you'll have two bills. You'll have a solar bill and you will have a utility bill. Now again, there's two different types of programs within this. The first is a lease. A solar lease, the best way to think about that, it's like budget billing. You can have the same payment every single month for the whole term of the contract, and or there's another one where you get a lower rate and it escalates every single year at 2.9%. There's an issue with the escalating rate. It starts off substantially lower than the utilities rate, and as long as utility doesn't rise, then over the course of the contract, you're taking a look at something that could be 11 cents going all the way up to 22 cents. So in my opinion, escalating rate would not be a great way to go. I personally recommend locking that rate in with a 0% escalator. And then that way you know exactly what your electricity bill is with solar for the next 20 years and every single month going in there. A power purchase agreement, the best way to kind of think about that is it is fluctuating payments. It's just like your normal utility bill that you pay right now. Now the difference is that, again, you'll still have two utility bills, but theoretically, you're going to be paying less in solar. And so rather than your normal power bill, this power purchase agreement will actually you'll be paying less for electricity. Important to note, you only pay for the power that the system produces with the power purchase agreement. The other option in the third-party ownership is, of course, a prepay option. A prepay option is you're not actually owning the equipment, but what you are doing is you're prepaying all the power that the system would ever produce, and therefore, you don't really have a solar bill. And so, again, there's no real ownership in it, but it's a cheaper way to go than actually forking out all the cash. A solar lease, again, as you can see on this slide right here, it's all about the payment, not the rate. And so as you can see on the second image right below there, you can see how that payment starts escalating. It starts rising. This one is a 2.9% escalator, and you can see it starts going up. Imagine if your bill was $210 and went up 2.9% every year. Over the course of 20 years, you're probably paying closer to $400. So, you got to be really careful when you're taking a look at these programs, especially if you're a realtor. Now, these programs last anywhere from 15 to 25 years, and there's typically no buyout option on a solar lease. The next one is, again, the Solar Power Purchase Agreement, or PPA. This one does show, as you can see, a 2.9% escalating rate. And so, again, these are for 15 to 25 years. The solar company owns it. And what's important to note is that you can typically purchase a power purchase agreement after the 5th year for fair market value. Now, what does that mean? That means you contact the solar company, and they'll actually send somebody out to appraise the system and then give you a value amount to the homeowner, and then they can determine whether or not they want to purchase or just carry on with the same exact program that they're currently on. Let's talk about, again, can you purchase or buy out a third-party owned system? A third-party owned companies, they own the equipment up front, and so they're going to receive the tax credit. Again, a lease typically is not going to have a buyout option, whereas a power purchase is going to, again, after the 5th year. Either way, if you do end up purchasing or prepay, you do not receive the federal tax credit. Only the original purchaser gets that credit. Also important to note that the warranty, monitoring, and typically the insurance will transfer to the new homeowner once they qualify for the program. Okay, so here we get into the purchase or finance systems. Again, with a purchase, a customer can purchase the system outright with cash, and or they can finance it, and I like to call that a solar mortgage. So once the system is fully paid off, that's actually when it'll add immediate equity into the home. How much? It really all depends, and so you really need to talk with your realtor or have your realtor reach out to us. Now, what is a UCC? Now, normally what I always hear is solar and liens, they go together. That's not always true. So a majority of these companies, they actually put a UCC1 fixture filing on all of their agreements. It's not a lien against the house, nor does it cloud title, such as with a refi or purchase or sell of the home. Essentially what it says is that the solar company owns the equipment. And if the solar company finds that you defaulted upon the agreement, the solar company is legally allowed to come and reclaim the solar equipment. And that's really what that UCC does. So it doesn't cloud title at all. Now, where you could hop into it is if you purchase a system and the solar company didn't pay, their electricians. And so the electricians could put a mechanics lien on the home. Kind of a little different scenario, but still. We talked about earlier with owning the system. Can it add value to your home? Yes, it can. Only if you own the equipment and they're fully paid off. Doing a third-party owned system such as a lease or power purchase agreement is going to add zero, and I mean zero value to your home in the way of an appraisal. And so how much value does an owned system really add to it? Well, here's what I recommend. One, I recommend pulling comps and trying to see if there's any other solar homes in the area. The next one I would do is after you pull comps, I'd go to a website called pvvalue.com. Pretty self-explanatory website. You register for free, and then you add in the information from the solar contract. And then it'll kind of give you a rough estimate of what the additional value of the system is. And I recommend providing that to the appraiser when you guys are running your comps and doing the appraisal. All right, so let's talk about buying a solar home. Now, in a third-party owned system, the agents will list the home as a solar home. Whether it's a lease or power purchase agreement, there's going to be additional monthly payments in addition to the remaining utility bill that the client's going to have to purchase and take over. The buyer has to qualify for the existing agreement. They can either assume the fee by a soft credit check of $650, or they can pay a fee of right around $250. The buyer takes over the existing payments and the warranty, and the buyer is grandfathered into whatever the seller's net metering rate was at the time. Typically, the buyer is not going to have to insure the solar equipment. And just to note for everybody here in Southern Nevada, the current rate for our utility is 11.2 cents. Now, that's really important to note. If you're purchasing, you or your agent are purchasing a home with solar and it has a third-party owned system. If the solar rate is above 11 cents, really kind of start digging into why that is, especially if MV Energy is right around 11 cents. Now, important to note, there are ways to get that rate back down. There are specific buy down programs where you can buy the rate down. Between the homeowner and the buyer, you guys can figure a way to negotiate that with your agents. The other way is, again, you can always prepay the system or purchase it if that option is available. Now, if you're selling a solar home, especially for you agents out there, contact the solar company and get the contract. Okay, it's really important because you want to know exactly what you're getting into and what the payments and warranty are. And I would also recommend in the MLS or the multiple listing service is upload the document, the contract, and utility bills into the doc portal. That way, agents aren't reaching out to you and bothering you about, hey, can I get the contract? It's already there, and put it in the agent remarks that, hey, the utility bills and the solar contract are in the doc portal. Again, I would notify your title and escrow company that you are going into contract as a listing agent, and let them know who the solar company is so they can start the transfer process. Marketing and pricing a solar home. Now, again, these are just my recommendations, but I will tell you, when you are selling a solar lease or power purchase agreement home, the appraiser will not add a single cent to the home. And it's important to note, if the solar rate or payment is higher than the utility, you may have to take that into consideration when pricing the home. I recommend pricing the home below market value, and that way it really creates an incentive to the buyer who's going to have to take over the contract. Okay. Now, if the solar rate or payment is lower and it's a fixed rate, I still would caution being careful with overpricing the property. But you would want to market that the solar is less than the utility company, and therefore that could be an incentive for a buyer to come and purchase the home. Now, a couple what ifs. If the buyer doesn't want the solar panels, well, one, that may not be the home for them. The other option is that the seller can remove the panels, either by paying a fee and transferring it to the new property or canceling the agreement altogether. The other option is, what if the buyer has bad credit? For first-time home buyers, this may not be the right program for them, especially if they're doing down payment assistance. Their credit may not already be there. And so for them to have to qualify and spend extra money to take over and assume a solar contract, it may not be the best situation for them. So realtors, make sure you guys know who your audience is. What if the seller insists on solar staying with the home? Again, it could be a deal breaker for your buyer, especially if they're unwilling to, do a rate buy down or prepay option or have the system removed. Again, it's probably not the right home for your buyer. Now, if the seller wants to take the solar, awesome. If you're the listing agent, have your client contact the solar company and see what type of fees and the policy is to move it to the new home. They could be subject to a new net metering rate once the panels are moved. If the buyer wants solar but hates the program, this is where I would first recommend the listing agent or the buyer's agent to actually reach out to the solar company and try to see kind of like if you can negotiate the price here. Most companies are willing to negotiate because it costs more to send out a crew to remove the panels than it does to just give a lower rate and with a rate buy down. Okay. Now, again, what if someone wants the panels moved? So let's just say the seller wants the panels and they want them at their new home. They can do it as long as it's under the same utility district. Also, there's going to be a fee. So you're going to have to take a look at what the solar contract states. And if you're unsure, reach out to the solar company. Again, they are the end-all, be-all of all the fees and the understanding of the contract. Okay? Let's just say you're buying or selling a purchase system. Really, this is a great thing because the buyer is just taking over a system that's already been paid off. And so really what they're walking into is a home that produces electricity at a substantially lower cost than the utility company. They'll only really have one utility bill, which will be a very substantially small MV Energy bill. They still take over the existing warranty, whether that is a solar warranty or the manufacturer warranty. They're grandfathered into the original rates. But important to note that the second homeowner does not receive the federal tax credit, as it only goes to the first one. Also, when you're purchasing a home with owned solar, again, you're talking substantial savings throughout the life that those panels can live. Let's talk about what happens at title. So the buyer or buyer's agent should notify the lender that there's solar on the home. Why? Because with a solar lease, it could affect their loan payments. Similarly, if you have a large HOA payment, the lender may say, hey, you can't cover a $350 payment with an HOA, but you could do a $50. And so let your lender know and let title know that there is solar on the home and that there's a solar contract. Also, make sure that you guys are reading through your preliminary report to make sure that there's no real liens on the property, such as a mechanic's lien. There will more likely be a UCC1, which again is not a big issue. Now, if you guys have questions about any of the topics that we've talked here, click right here. There's our YouTube channel. We do videos like this all the time. Click subscribe, and you guys can even send us emails, and we'll get back to those as quick as possible. So here's what I would say. Get the solar contracts. Look at what you guys are doing. If you have questions, reach out to us. Most importantly, reach out to the solar company, and they're really going to help you understand what that specific program on that specific home really is about. But we look forward to hearing back from you guys. Stay tuned for more educational videos, and have a great day.